Okay, this is your lesson for January 28th, Thursday. I'm not here today, so I thought I would leave you a video to help you with some of your questions if needed. So the first thing, I'll make it kind of quick, but the first thing you need to do is make sure that you finished your assignments from yesterday, which was to read the entire story. You need to have read the whole thing and answered the first 5 questions, and then you should have done the highlighting on the rest of the questions. So for instance, on this question right here, you didn't have to answer it, but it says highlight text that explains why the chef is no longer reading current newspapers. So you should have highlighted what it asked you to highlight. So once you've read and done all of the questions and highlighting that you were supposed to do, then you're going to do your 3 check your understanding questions. I'm not going to read those to you. You're able to check them and see if you got them right. Then you're going to do all 5 of the analyze the text. You do not have to do the research bit at the bottom or anything else on this page. So cite evidence. That means you have to type into your answer evidence from the story. What evidence does the author provide that the chef, even after a year in hiding, fears discovery? So that would be evidence like things that he was doing to keep from making sure making sure that he doesn't get caught. Might be his thoughts or his actions, anything that lets you know that he's still afraid of being discovered. Number 2, summarize. How does the chef justify the theft of the professor's briefcase and his identity? So find the part in the story where it speaks about that, and then summarize. How does he justify stealing? There's several places. There was one place at the very beginning of the story, I remember, or the part that we read together, where he justified why it was okay that he had stolen this man's identity. Number 3, in what way is the beggar outside the cafe the chef's double? Meaning, why did the chef identify with him or think of him as his double? And why does he not want to walk past him? Make sure that you support your response with evidence from the text. So far, there's nothing here that's any kind of term or anything that you might need help with knowing. These questions are pretty straightforward. Number 4, throughout the story, the author revisits the astronomy question. Now, that is the question that was at the end of the test, where the professor was going to give this test to his students and ask them to prove the false statement that the sun actually revolves around the earth. So what is the connection between this question and the story's theme? This author interweaves ideas about science and astronomy and physics throughout the story. So why might she have done that? And what might this idea of him trying to prove something that's actually false? You see where I'm going here? Him trying to prove something that's actually false. So how could that have to do with the theme of the story? And why might he keep trying to work on that question? And number 5, does the chef ever begin to believe his own lie? When I read this question earlier, I had to think about it for a little while. I know what my answer would be, but as long as you cite evidence from the text, then it could probably go either way. But does he ever really begin to believe his own lie that he is the professor? All right, those are your analyze the text questions. Remember, I'm looking for 3 or 4 good sentences, text evidence, just mainly evidence that you have really thought out the question and that you understand what you've read. Then we're going to move on to the last bit of your lesson that you have to do. You just have to do this critical vocabulary at the top. You do not have to do anything down here at the bottom, okay? Just the top part, these 6 questions. If the professor's arms were flailing when he was seized, did he resist arrest or comply meekly? Explain your answer. Well, if his arms were flailing, I would have to say the professor resisted. If he had been calm, he would have been cuffed willingly, not flailing. And that's what I'm asking you to do here. Answer the questions. So when the chef reads the professor's test question, he interprets it as an inversion. Why? Explain your response. So you see, you have to know what these words mean. If the chef believes that all things in the universe are equidistant from him, is the sun farther from the chef than the moon? Explain your response. You just have to know what equidistant means. And 4, the professor's wife tracked down the chef to determine what had transpired. What did she hope to find out? Explain your response. Number 5, the guards flagrantly disregarded the law in seizing the professor. How concerned were they about being caught making an unlawful arrest? How concerned were they about being caught arresting the professor? Does the story address that? The war created havoc in the chef's country. What might you assume every day was like for people in his country? Remember, we don't know what country this is. It's a war-torn country. It mentions toward the end of the story that things had gotten worse in the year that he's been on the run. So what do you think life is like for the people there, just based on your knowledge of history and other stories? All right, I think that's all that I needed to talk to you about today. Make sure that you work diligently and use your time wisely and get these completed and be ready for a test tomorrow over the briefcase. See you then.